Okay, so here's what I want to find out. Which image do you want me to edit? Is there a certain style? Is there a certain one image that you'd like to see? I mean, for us to start? Because it's just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah? No, one of yours or what?
One of mine. This is how I've been doing them. I usually let people watch me pick an image from beginning to end, and then you ask me questions as we go. Because what that does is you go, okay, wow, this is possible, this is possible. From there, we can go to your images if you want, and you can send me a JPEG through email. I can open it, and then we can work on yours. It's really up to you, but I want you to get a feel for how different it is and how simple the things are I use in Photoshop, maybe before we go to your image. Is that okay? If not, it's fine.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I was going to, well, of course, yours are so eye-catching. I wanted to, yeah. Let's go to yours. Let's go to yours.
Yeah, I want you to see how I get that look. First of all, is that okay? So is there a certain style? Do you like the road photos? Do you like the reflection photos?
Well, the ones that you shot on, well, almost everyone you shot on that. You have this sort of signature background. That road in the, I guess. On the road. Yeah, it's on the road now where you live. Although the one that caught my eye most is it's one of the few that you took off the road. It's in your senior collection, and it shows a young lady with her back turned, and there's I think they there's I think it's a reddish. I don't have it open, but it's so okay. That's what you're going to.
Let's look. We'll go through my 500px thing here,
yeah.
And you can show me. Was it in leaves?
Yes.
Oh boy, yes. I'll tell you, that is one image I don't have a raw file for, but that is very easy to do. And all I did was I used a plugin for that in Vignette called Indian Summer, but that was physically just painted. And let me show you this here. So I think you're looking at Bree, which is down here. Yeah, that's in my fall stuff right here. Or was she on the road?
Yes, that's right, that one.
This one, okay. Yeah, this was actually shot in fall, and this was shot at 85.12. There's not a lot I did for this except for just physically painting these leaves red. Okay? So, but this one, I don't have a raw file for it to build for you. I can show you how we do a road and go from there. Or maybe if you have something like this in one of your images, I can show you how I did this on one of yours.
I didn't. Well, if I had thought more about it, I could probably have. You know what? Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe I could something.
I don't have any foliage yet. I don't have any foliage yet this year to do that with, but it's super easy.
So if you had so what you did was basically you have the basic scene, and then
I'll show you something.
Yeah.
We'll use it on this image right here because this image is current. So I'll show you all I did. We're going to go to my Lightroom Catalog here first of all, and I'm going to import. Actually, here we'll go to Lyric. So bear with me here too, Digi.
Yeah.
Find these images. Most of these are road images, but I did do a few with her. These are all my raw files.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so.
And her just in that green, okay, and then I'll show you how I switched the green to red. So, actually probably. Okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna pull this into Lightroom
Okay.
for now, and now I'm gonna ask you just if you're seeing certain things as we go, because I want to make sure it's streaming in real time. Okay, I want to make sure you're caught up. I mean, I know it's recording, but I want to make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. So, are you seeing me move the crop tool right now?
I can see. Yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Okay.
I can see the crop. Yep.
Now, this is an image straight out of my camera, and all I did for that last image that you saw was super easy. That's probably one of my easiest edits. I literally took that exposure and I pulled it into Photoshop, and I used a Nik plugin. And I'll show you. Do you have Nik Color Effects?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Then you'd be able to do this. And, you know, I do book covers. I do a lot of book covers and some magazine work. And so I do those, you know, brighter colors in the fall, and sometimes I just paint. I never know what I'm going to end up with. So it was just more of a creative thing for me.
Right.
On that image, it wasn't a typical client image. Let's shut this down here. I'm sorry.
Let me just interrupt you there. Okay, this is where my knowledge of, like I said, I spent most of my life in Lightroom, just trying to get in. Now, you exported that as a smart object rather than just click on
I use Adobe CC. The only reason I did that is because sometimes when I'm on GoToMeeting, it can be a little glitchy. And so for some reason, Photoshop will open up a smart object easier. I actually did it just to trick Photoshop, because you can see I tried to not open it as a smart object, and it didn't go.
Right.
And it has something to do with PC settings. So I will actually, I'll actually rasterize this layer and flatten it. It's not important that I use it as a smart object. It was important that it just opened in Photoshop. So I'm just going to go to flatten image and right there rasterize it. It was specifically a workaround, nothing more. So I'm going to show you on this photo. All I did was go to Filter up here, to Nik, and I go to Color Effects Pro 4. And the only thing this program does is it changes your greens and yellows to either red or orange. And I'll show you how it worked. I used, on that photo you liked, those leaves in the original color were yellow. And I went to Indian Summer, this program called Indian Summer right here. Okay? And then up here, you can see it grabbed all my greens and yellows. It didn't touch the purples that were in there. And all I did was bump that up. And then I physically masked out and painted over the girl in the green dress.
Within
that was simply how we did that image.
So were you using did you use the control points in Color Effects Pro, or
no, never. I never use control points. Everything is very simple for me, so I would never use that. I just want to get this and this, and then I would physically go through. It's not picking up these colors, so it wouldn't work for this image. I wanted to show you how it would grab these greens, okay? But I would take, all I did was I took this, okay, Color Effects Pro 4, and you see it here in my layers?
Right.
I put a mask on it.
Okay.
And I just painted it out over the girl.
You use the pen? That's what
correct, the pen and tablet. Okay. I don't even use selections. So I can actually, I think if I show you beginning to end image photos, you're going to get a better grasp of how I handled it. And that way we can put it, that way we can put it to work for you, okay?
All right.
So let me do that really quick, because you're going to see all kinds of things that I do that are extremely simple. But better grab a road image here. I'm going to go ahead and Control Delete. Lightroom down real quick, because Lightroom does not like GoToMeeting for some reason. And it just takes me a second, but I'll have to do it. And don't worry, make sure this. So, okay, so I'm going to select I'm going to go select the road. Now, in these roads, you're going to see a lot of tools I would use for any image, whether it was on a road or not. So let's pull up keel. Keel right here. And I have a few little girls on a road. I'm going to explain to you how I pick my subjects, okay?
Okay.
And I really am. I'm just going to start from beginning to end. So I'm going to go down here to my road and show you how I pick what we edit. So let's start. Let's look through these. I'm looking in here. These are my raw images straight out of the camera, shot at 1.2. And all I've done is I set these little girls down, and I've encouraged them to throw sand, to do whatever they want to do.
How did it now? What was your focus point there?
Focus point was okay. First thing I did was I had it on 1.2, and I'm really low. I'm shooting from the ground. Okay, so let's analyze this image. I'm shooting from the ground. My exposure's right on, and I have a backlight. You can tell from the shadows right here. Okay, so I'm shooting from the ground, 1.2. At 1.2, the trick is I have to make sure when I sit these girls down, they're both on this focus plane. Okay, so they have to be even to the camera. And you can see in this image, she's just a little off. Okay, so at some point I would have adjusted her. So what we're going to look for is while I'm laying here is these two girls both in sharp focus on the same focus plane.
Okay.
So
because your depth of field is nothing at that focus zone, right? Yeah.
What's that?
I said at 1.2, your depth, because it seemed like the sand that we're throwing was in, at least part of it was in sharp focus, and still the girl in white.
Yeah. Some of it, the thing is that this sand is so sharp on the edges that even if it came out 3 inches and you had the stack light coming through, it's going to show as sharp just because of the way the light hits it and the clothing it's up against. I would actually, this is a cool image here, and I could make this for you if you wanted to. I would probably be more apt to just take her completely out of the scene and use her because this is beautiful. So what I'm going to see if I have another scene without her in it. Because if I do, we're going to paint that in. What we want to do, first of all, is we want to come up with a photo that's actually this same exposure out of camera, just so we have a base to work on. And you can see here, my exposures are not always on. It's very difficult to shoot at 1.2, especially moving subjects and maintain a focus point. So I have to take a lot of different shots. And with kids, you do anyway because they're moving. This is basically a movie at this point. And so I'm shooting at six frames a second. We have all kinds of factors. We have moving sand. We have hair flying.
Right.
I like this image. I like this image with both of them.
Okay. Just quick question: do you tend to switch in? Do you shoot in aperture and manual for
I shoot in aperture typically, just right in aperture. Right. My camera settings are very important. Even if my white balance is off, I shot in RAW, so I can come in and adjust this image. So I'm going to start with this image, and we're going to build this one, okay?
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes, sure.
I'm going to show you how we would start with this. First of all, I'm going to take this image into Lightroom. Okay, I'm going to import it. I've unselected Select. And I'm going to build a composition here. I'm going to build a composition because this is obviously off. It's crooked. And if you look at my images, you'll always see a very straight horizon line, okay? It's very important to me. We're going to lose some of this blur off the bottom, but I'm going to show you how I put it back in because we're going to need that space. I'm going to want more space down here than this. But we have a perfect composition here, nearly. We've got to save some room to put our sky in. But right here we have 4 points intersected.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm very textbook about that. I want as many as I can possibly get. I'm going to go build this image and put some more of this blurred sand down here in Photoshop so we have something bigger to work off of. And we're just going to kind of build around it. So I'm going to straighten this up again. And I'm going to show you how I do that. So I'm going to take this image to Photoshop if it opens up. Now, if these shadows were cut off, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm going to do because I would have to paint in shadow. But I'm going to take some of this blur and I'm going to add more to the bottom. In order to do that, I have to find another image from that shoot. I mean, part of my images you might find they're all, a lot of work goes into even the subtle things, but it's still very simple. I take an image. This is how I edit it. I take it and I remove everything I don't like about it. I found a way to change it. And I never love an image, but if I don't have anything that I don't like about it, none. So I'm going to import this. Okay. After I shut down Lightroom, it just freezes, but it doesn't take me long to stop it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Keel. And I'm looking for an image with some more of that gravel blur at the bottom that we can add to the bottom. So I'm just going to paint it in. So I've got to find this one here. This has a lot of blur to it. This image is going to work, even though that's not sharp. It's really just perfect for what we need it for. So I'm going to import it. Provided it's going to let me here.
Or those, when you say, okay, those are, you're just taking those into Lightroom, so this is not your,
yeah, I'm just going to, yeah, this is my key drive. I'm just going to take them into Lightroom.
Got it. Okay.
And again, Lightroom's going to freeze up on us. I'm going to probably have to do this fairly good amount, but it's sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. So I've had to shut it down again. Start it up. Frustrating. I'm using a very powerful computer too, and that's what's driving me insane about this GoToMeeting. But the audio quality and the real time is way better than on WebEx because I tried that too. And this worked much better. So again, I got to find something with a lot of blur in it. This one's going to work, so I'm just going to import that. And here it comes, hopefully.
All right.
Okay, so nice. Okay, so I've got this.
Okay.
I'm going to open it in Photoshop. Again, I'm going to do this as a smart object and flatten it. For some reason, when I'm on this, it opens it as a smart object, but when I open it as just a regular JPEG, Photoshop won't do it. And it's like it might not even be opening up here. We'll see. Huh. Glitchy today. We're going to try this. There it goes. There it caught it. Okay.
So is it, no, okay, there we go. It wasn't opening.
Yeah, we've got it. So I'm going to grab my blur image because we're just going to paint some blur in at the bottom from this one. Yay, we're good. Okay, first thing I need to do, this is going to be my background layer here to put the blur in, okay? So I'm going to put a canvas around here because by default, if I move this, Photoshop's going to cut it off and I can't see it. Okay? So I'm just going to lengthen this canvas so I can move this. I basically want a table that I can work on, a virtual table. So I'm going to go to Image, Canvas, set it at 24. I'm going to set it at 44, at 56, and now we have some transparency around this we can work against, okay? I'm going to go to the image I want to use, which is this, okay? And I'm going to put it over the top of this. And I'm going to look down here because this is really the blur we're going to paint on. It's probably going to be up a little closer to this where I'm kind of matching pebble sizes, but you can see it start to blend in. I'm going to take my background layer. Now, are you using Adobe CC?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you have Camera Raw Filter. And then I'm going to go to Camera Raw Filter, And taking in mind, I'm on my bottom layer here, which is this blur. I'm going to drop the exposure on this until it matches into this because I can see the exposure was a little bit off. And now you're going to see the sand drop in the bottom a little more. See it blend now? And all we have to do is go paint this line out. We have all this new space at the bottom of this image. So I'm going to go to the top layer. And if I'm going too fast, tell me, okay?
Yeah, it doesn't, on the left side, it doesn't look on my screen.
No, but we're going to crop it. Yeah, we're going to crop it. We're only concerned about this for right now. So I only focus on certain parts of the image at a certain time. Sometimes I ignore the subject, and I'm only going to the skyline. And that's why, yeah, here, so I'm going to go and I'm going to paint this out, okay, because we only came in here to get this blur at the bottom. And I just painted out with a very soft brush, okay? So I use about 100% opacity. You see our line's gone. And now we have all this extra room we can work around with this image, and now we have way more control over exposure. Even if I wanted to lengthen this out on the sides, I would just go to top layer. I would select this over here to the shadow where it's not affected. I would edit, transform, and I would scale it out just a little bit, give us some more room on the side. But you have to be careful that this doesn't stretch too bad here. But did you see that?
Yes, it's
now we have, now we have some more here. And that gave us a little more room to work with too. And we kind of needed some on the side. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to back out. I'm going to crop our image to where those lines are. And now we have a nice image with some workable space on it, okay? And we can still crop some of this off the bottom if you want to. See how seamless that blur is just from another image?
Right.
So that's all we were trying to do in here. I'm going to take this image, I'm going to flatten it, save it in Lightroom just so I don't lose it. And what we need to do now is we need to focus on a sky for this photo. And so I'm going to show you how I get my skies. Close these out. Close this out. So right here we have a nice working image. We need to put a sunset in here, though, or sky. And as we can tell from our shadows that the sky, sun I select, is going to have to be right over here. So this is going to be our selection when I'm going through my skies. And this is my library of sky.
Okay. Oh, no, you lost me there. Now you said you're going to, where are you getting the sky from again?
I'll show you. Yeah, I'll show you. And I'm going to show you the skies, and I'll explain to you actually even how I shoot them, okay, and why. So let's go look at these skies. Yeah, just watching me edit this one image is you're gonna go, oh, I see now. And then it's gonna open up a lot of other possibilities. Shut down Lightroom. I'm gonna reopen it. Okay, and I'm going to explain my skies here. Let's find our other image that we just fixed, which is right here. Okay, so import. Yeah, boy, this is brutal. Brutal.
You did that? You did a recent update?
What's that?
I wonder whether, did you do the recent Lightroom update, the 5.5 or something?
You know, I don't think I did. I think it asked me, but this has been doing it since I started it just a month ago. And so even before it was out, it's just for some reason it really taxes my computer when I turn on Lightroom. Photoshop doesn't use that much, but Lightroom does, especially when I'm importing. But once we get into that image, we won't be importing a lot.
Right.
I want to go to,
okay.
I want to show you this, and then I'll explain it to you. This is really tough. But bear with me. I will make it worth it, I promise.
Sure.
It's worse on certain days, and then in an hour it could be fine. You just don't know. I'm going to close a lot of this down too. Google Chrome.
Yeah.
That's probably taxing. I'll give it a second to catch up here. There we go. Okay. What I'm about to show you are just blurred sunsets. And if you've looked at my images before, you see that it has a sky in them, correct? I mean, you can see all that sky detail. It's not possible to get sky detail when you're photographing. There's no camera with a high enough dynamic to do that. So what I figured out was to do was to take my 85 millimeter lens, put it on manual, look at my sky, and I bumped the aperture up to around 4 or 5, and then I underexpose it. So what I'm shooting at night, when they're interesting, are only underexposed, blurred skies, okay? And what happens, here's one. I have all these skies. I have thousands of them, okay? But I'm not using a blur software, because when you use blur software, you don't get things that are native to the lens, like specular highlights. And this bokeh, this is natural right out of the 85. And all I did was blur it manually and underexpose the shot at an aperture of 4. Now, I'm going to look for a sky out of here with a directional sun that's going to match those girls. So I'm going to go through my library, and you can see when I'm shooting, there are so many different kinds. Like this one's in focus, but I might have shot one out of focus. See, there's out of focus. I have literally hundreds of skies, and what's nice about that is I can use any sky from any day, you know, as long as it has that look to it, and we can get a pretty cool image. So with these girls here, it's a bright scene. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to import this sky, because this sky is going to work for us. This has a little bit of cloud detail.
Okay.
Just hold on for me really quick, okay? I'll be right back. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, Desi, very sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, so we have a basic sky here we're going to fit in. If you watch me work on this, I'm going to show you that anything's possible. It's just on how you look at the image. We're going to fit this blurred image into the other image. So I'm going to go back to the other image and look at it. And so here we have it. We're going to need a sun right up here that follows this. This image is pretty overexposed at this point. And I'm going to back it down to Lightroom before we take it in. I'm going to back it down to Lightroom on the exposure just a little bit. We still want to see some nice skin tones and not a lot of black in the skin. Okay?
Right.
We just want to back it down a little bit. The other thing I want to do is I want to show a lot of dramatic highlights on this. And in order to do that, a lot of people go to highlights and bump it up. That doesn't really do a lot to your scene because all it does is it's adjusting exposure. We want to adjust the highlight curves, okay, because that's going to give us a little bump in saturation in the curves down here. So I'm going to go to my tone curve. I'm going to press this up, and can you see the difference now in the scene?
Yes.
Yeah, it's adding, and we don't want to bump it up. We just want it to be a little more dramatic in these highlights over here. So I'm going to take this photo into Photoshop. It goes, and this is something I can't teach. It's by eye. So it's, you know, it's just to personal taste as to how or what you want those adjustments to. I can see, you know, some blues in this arm, a little bit of black, and I'll probably fix that out later. But anyway, this is here. It's in Photoshop. And now I'm going to go to my sun that I picked. Okay. I want to bump the exposure up on this a little bit so it matches that scene a little more because that other scene's a little more overexposed. I also don't like a ring around the sun. I'm going to drop the clarity down just a little bit. Okay, and there's other ways we're going to blend it out. What I do like are the details in these clouds here. So I'm going to go to Photo.
Right.
Edit in Photoshop. And this is going to be our background layer. I'm going to unlock it, edit, and just like I did last time, I'm going to put a canvas around this image. So it's a 22. I'm going to go to 32. Those numbers don't really matter. And in this image, our sun's coming from this way. So we have to place the sun over here. In order for me to do that, I have to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and that's going to be our background. We're going to put the sun in here. Are things starting to click for you a little bit?
Sorry?
Are things starting to click for you a little bit?
Yeah. I was when you opened that, I was wondering what time because I thought the sun was in the opposite direction. So now you've answered that question. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but keep in mind the things I'm using are very simple. Okay, I don't overcomplicate anything, and I haven't overcomplicated anything yet. Even this was very simple. We just used something we already had, and we put it in there with a minor adjustment. Okay. We're going to take this up here and put it here, and we're going to try to match our sun in this image over here. And we can see if we move it over here, it's actually still. It needs to be further over here. All we have to do is take that background layer with the sun, edit, transform, scale, move it over here, okay, until it fits. That way we're not bothering this over here. And now it's oblong. So we're going to stretch it up a little bit and move it just right about in here. And I always check my shadow, so running diagonal, that's about right. And this one here, again, that's about right. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to that shape. And there's other things we can always change later. I'm going to go to my foreground layer. I'm going to put a mask on it. And this is where people always wonder how I get this sky line into this without looking natural, okay?
Right.
Because most people would make a selection, and if they make a selection, it doesn't look right. I'm going to show you how to make it look seamless in the background. And this is the only way I found to do it. I'm going to take a brush at 100% opacity. I don't care about my subjects here. I only care about the skyline. I don't want any haloing in it. 100% opacity, I'm going to paint it completely out and everything above it. Okay? Now I'm going to go back to my layer. I'm going to switch it to white. And I'm going to move it down to, say, 10, 11%. The only thing I want here is to paint this layer, this white color in, over the top of this gently until the two start to combine. And even from one swipe, you can see our foreground. You see it? You can see our foreground start to come in. Our skyline up there. I'm going to give it one more swipe. And now we start to have it come in. I'm gonna hold off on that. Like I'm going to leave that right there for now. And I'm going to go ahead, and this is the very tricky part. You do not, when you're painting your foreground back in, you do not want to come close to the skyline because what we're trying to do is not get any haloing around it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 100% soft brush. I'm going to paint my foreground back in. And you want to get as close to that line as you possibly can, especially around the subject, because you want to 100% highlights all that stuff, okay? You want to get as close to it as you can at 100%, painting it all back in without getting any haloing over the skyline. From there, I'm going to go back on this one, and some scenes are different. I'm going to just a real soft layer again, and always never dab, because if you dab, you're going to end up with spots you can't get rid of. This is something you're going to want to go back on the video and watch a few times. I always just one swipe across the whole scene, okay? And there again starts to bring this back in, okay? Now, next step. I'm going to go back to my original layer that we put on our foreground layer, and not even taking the subject into consideration. I want to make this as black as I can up top, okay? In order to do that, I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, Brightness. Back the brightness down a little bit. Okay, we want this as black as it can be, and this as white as it can be. So then I'm going to up my contrast clear up. Now it's really dark. Do you see it? And above it's really white. I'm going to take this darkened layer. I'm going to go put it into this image, snap it over the top, and I'm going to switch my blend layer to darken. Now, have you used darken layer before?
No. No.
Okay. All darken layer does is it takes anything that's darker out of this image,
right,
and replaces it in this image. Okay, and it does. That's how it's not affecting whatever's up here, because we had a lighter color come in here. So unless it's darker than what is over, it's not going to go in. And that's going to take some practice with using darkening. And the only time I use it is if I'm going to paint in some hairs, I'm going to put the skyline in. I don't care about this scene right now. I only care about this up here. Okay? Now I'm going to take this because I've already done it. It's darkened. And I'm going to put a layer mask on it. Okay? So there's my white layer mask, and I'm going to invert it. So we're right back to where we started here. But now we can paint in that skyline with a white brush. 100% opacity and swipe it across the top. And there it comes without affecting anything in the scene, okay? So, it looks a little dark to me, so I'm actually going to back it off. I'm going to just put it so we have a nice little light bleed coming through there now. Okay? I'm going to go back down here, 100% white, and I'm going to look for spots on this previous foreground layer. I'm just going to paint this road back in here a little bit, and anywhere that darken didn't hit, I'm going to come back in with my brush too. And again, this is just kind of by sight. This is, you do it to your own personal taste. And then I'm going to go back up here in my darken layer and make sure I got everything darker off of this little girl here. This is really about as confusing as it gets, as this part, I think. The rest is all pretty easy. Black, white. So I just want to make sure I got all that darken off my subject. And you can see me paint her detail back in.
Right.
So this is nice so far. This is looking where I want it. There's a few more steps to get that skyline to blend in 100%. Just want to make sure I got all of that. I'm going to go ahead and crop this because I like where my sun is, so I'm going to go ahead and commit to this, and we're just going to work on the image. Actually, I'm going to look for a good composition on this, too. So I think this is probably about right here.
Okay.
Except you'll see where I cropped it, we have a line now from our foreground. But what we did is we combined the two exposures, and the reason we did it is to get this nice skyline over the top. So I'm going to go to my first layer down here, and I want to bring this white up, okay, because you want this uniform. You want that uniform blending. I'm going to select that white, edit, transform, and scale it up. And there, we just got rid of it. And it blended in nicely to the top. And so here we have a scene that's pretty nice. There's a few more steps to blend that skyline in convincingly. And again, everything to show you is very simple. All I'm going to do for this to blend it is I'm going to take a clear, transparent layer, put it on the very top. My brush is already on white, so I'm going to use white paint This isn't a mask. This is just white paint over the top of this whole scene, okay? 100% opacity, and just like I do everything else in my scene, one single swipe across the top for uniformity. I'm going to take that layer and lower the opacity. And what it starts to do is blend this skyline through the top and in the back into the sky, and it gives a haze, and it gives a lot more depth, okay? So from there, I'm going to paint that white off my subject. So I'm going to mask it. It also gives a nice color, it gives a nice contrast to the subject and the background, and a lot more depth to the image. No selection, nothing fancy. Just paint the white off best you can. Sometimes if you can see some haloing, you're going to have to go in and do a little more work just to make sure, you know, that it's not obvious. But even right now, you can see the subject start to pop from the back a little bit, okay, and some light bleed. So now we have this nice skyline in the back, right? With a little bit of cloud detail and a little bit of color. Now I'm going to flatten this. Make sure I got all that white off of her. I'm going to flatten this photo. We've got one more step. This sun should be giving off.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah. Okay. I thought
I dropped my phone. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to put a little glow off of the sun. It's going to be very simple and subtle again. Transparent layer here over the top of this image. A brush, 100% opacity, and big. I want to take about a quarter of the screen. And I'm just going to dab, put the sun right in the middle and dab. And that's going to throw just a little bit of light bleed in from that sun and down around this horizon. Did you see that go in? Did you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Did you see that?
No, I was watching that now. How did you do that sort of that flare effect?
Let me show you again. So, okay, I'm going to take it off. So I'm on my base layer. I'm going to put in a transparent layer over the top.
Okay.
Okay. I've got white paint, white soft brush. This brush is the fourth one in or fifth. Okay. I want to make this. I want to make my brush size about a quarter size of the screen. Place it over the top of the sun, and just dab really quick. And that was it.
Oh, I see.
You have some light bleed, and now again, same as I always do. I'm going to put a mask on this. Come here, paint it off of my subject.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see it start coming together. We're not done yet, though. So I'm going to also look at the opacity on that. What we're doing is we're taking things that happen in a lens with white paint, typically flare, and we're really using them to trick the eye. Okay? So that's what I've done here on that. That's all I've done. Again, this is getting close to how I would have wanted to in a perfect world with a perfect camera, have this look out of the camera, okay, before we do anything else to it. And now I'm going to start local adjustments. I'm going to save it because we have our sky detail in. We have the background blended well. I saved it in Photoshop. And I'm going to go look at what's important in this image. And the way I look for what's important, I want to know where I want my eye to go in this photo, okay? So the first place I want my eye to go is on this little bit of sand here, okay? And the detail in some of the girls' clothes. I don't want it to maybe go for the wrinkle, but these are cool. And I'm going to bring this sand out, this line, because what's cool about my images are that razor thin line of focus.
Right.
Okay? So I'm going to go to, and you may not have this, but you can buy it. This is a detail brush, and you can buy them from about anyone. This is from Jessica Draws and Textures. And if you email her and tell her you're my student, she'll give you a good deal on one. She'll sell it to you for like $6.
What's the name again?
It's here, I'll spell it for you. It's Jessica Draws and Textures. Here, it's okay.
Okay.
Right here, Jessica Draws and Textures.
Okay.
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 And all you do is email her here and tell her you're a student of mine and you'd like to get the detail brush.
Okay.
And she'll send it to you. She may not even charge. I'm not sure what she's doing, but if she does, let's see. Okay, I'm going to go to Detail, Extra Sharp Detail Brush, press Play, Continue. because I'm just using an action, okay? And this is all set up for me. I don't know much about it except for the fact that it works. So I think it looks like she used a high-pass filter or something. But it puts a black layer mask on, and all I'm going to do is paint with white where I want the detail to show, okay? 100% opacity, and watch me paint.
Okay.
Can you see the detail coming in from the brush?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to put it over the sand and the things that are important. I don't like it on faces because if you look close, it actually leaves a haloing at 100% around here, and it's too harsh. It almost looks like HDR, and I don't want that. So I'm going to back this off, my opacity, until it starts to look natural. But it still has a nice effect. It had a nice effect on the sand and on the clothes, but I don't want too much. I really want their face plus in sharpness, but it took all of that detail out too. So the image is getting there. It's starting. Okay, the next thing, where do I want my eye to go? I want my eye to go to the center of this image, and that's why I put that road there. Okay, and the way we're going to do with this is we're going to lead the eye through the image with color. I'm not going to bump the saturation up on this entire thing. I want it to lead our eye past the subject and then back to the subject. And I have to go look for color in this image that's going to lead my eye through the center of it. I'm going to go to a plain saturation brush, okay? It's a sponge. It's set on 20%, but I'm also did it on a separate layer in case I want to back off the opacity. And I see, if I'm the sun here, I'm going to light up. I see all these highlights coming along the side of the road. I'm going to paint in color where that is with the saturation brush. So I'm actually taking color that's already there. And you can see the colors start to go in. And what we have now is this pretty line of color that goes right down the center of the image. It's very subtle.
Yes.
But it's there and it helps, okay? And there's some highlights here on the top of this tree I want to bring out. And that's it. This is a good base image for us. I'm really happy with this. And so I'm going to save it. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at their faces and see if I like everything. And I do like everything. I'm not crazy about some of this hair on her, but unfortunately, that's the hair go through an eye. When I have hair go through an eye, I just leave it alone because it's hard to get it to look right. I'm going to take just my basic sharpening tool on the left, okay, here on Sharpen, and I'm just going to run it over her eyelashes a little bit just to bring the eyelashes out. It accentuates focus, okay? As we go down, you're seeing we have face detail, perfect face detail on the same focus plane, okay? Same with her eyes. Sharpen tool, 16%. And you want to go until just before it starts to get artifacts because it's a big difference there. And so here we go. This image is really coming together. And I'm at a point right now where I want to put a film layer over it. And for a film layer, I'm just going to use Nick. And I'm actually going to give you my recipe because everybody wants to know why my images look so warm. This is why. So as it's not warm out of the camera, I go to Filter, Nick Collection, Color Effects Pro 4. And we're still on Indian Summer from last time. I'm going to go to Vintage.
All right.
Film Effects Vintage, okay? This is all reset. So I use number 14, okay? Film strength at about 7.
Okay.
Grain per pixel all the way up. I don't want any grain in this image. Vignette right in the middle. Okay, about 67. Saturation up to about 42. And that looks like one of my images there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I might make a few adjustments after this afterwards, but what this recipe does at 14 on film strength 7, it makes these skin tones pop. You see it? And it gives that warmth to the photo overall. And so there's before. Here's after.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, big difference, okay? And so The only thing I would look at this point is maybe even blending this in a little more with some white paint back. I think that's just too, obvious. So I'm going to take another layer of white paint over the top of my skyline, 100% opacity, swipe across, lower the opacity so it starts to blend like that, and then just paint some black off of my subject. Okay, so, and that's it. I mean, that's how we build a road image. But the thing that I want you to pay attention to is that I didn't mess with anything there. I didn't mess with levels. I didn't mess with curves. I made local adjustments where they needed to be used, and I used simple adjustments, and I used them all for a reason. Okay, so my biggest reason is composition, number one, when we added this. So, I mean, when we come back in here with the crop tool, we're almost lined up. We can drop the sky down a little bit. There we have 4 points.
Right.
Okay, I brought out, I added some sky detail, very subtle sky detail in this one. Okay, and I added light over here with simple white paint.
Right.
The most complicated thing that's going to be hard for people to grasp is that darken layer. Okay, and if you ever had any problems with it or you're hung up, just give me a phone call. I run a tutorial during the day, but usually from between 3 to 6, I'll answer my phone and I'll just help you go through it. So I don't expect everybody to get it. I mean, I'm teaching you what took me, when I started doing this, I couldn't afford to, hire anybody. And so I literally, it was hours and hours and hours of practicing. And that's kind of what I'm teaching people, just a little bit faster. And so,
right.
But it took a lot of practice to get it like that, and maybe I didn't make it look easier, but you will too if you do about 20 of these a day. And so,
at this point, I know you didn't actually add a vignette to the
I did a very little bit on that one, and I'm going to show you this because I'm not quite done yet. I was going to show you some
I see. Okay.
Lightroom. Yeah, so that's okay. I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to see if I can get away with a little more vibrance without ruining skin tone. And I'm going to bump it up a little bit, and I can get away with a little bit of vibrance in this image without bumping up skin tone. I'm also going to look at my exposure. So even though I'm done in Photoshop, I'm still going to mess around Lightroom and see what I can get away with as far as dramatics. The only thing I care about at this point are these skin tones. I don't want to harm those. So I'm going to back my exposure off a little bit. And this is pretty nice, but I'm going to go down to my highlight priority and start to put in a little bit of a vignette. But I want to do all these all the way up, feather all the way up, round this up just a little bit, and then bring it down. And now probably going to go look at just bumping the exposure back up to where it was. But that's really a finished image right there. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason it's important for you to watch me build that is because it just teaches you that certain things are possible. I mean, and some of it, like flipping the sun, whatever it is, that's it, and we just built it. So there's really nothing I don't like about it. I mean, if I had to really complain, I wish her hands were in front of her so we had more of the sand and both of these hands focused. But for an example, this is a good image.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. If you've ever looked at my images, and my most successful images, I'll show you what the secret is. And the secret is really a few things. So most successful images. Here is focus. Okay. Focus.
Yeah.
Depth of field. And movement. Movement is the most important. My most successful images have movement, even if it's subtle movement. Right here.
Yeah.
This is here in her hair. We have movement. We're just taking a time when the wind picks it up. So people are going, how did he do that? Well, we shoot at those images. You saw 6 frames a second. So if I'm in a situation where it's windy, I would face her against the wind and just sit there and shoot until we get some movement in her hair.
Right.
Movement's very important. Again, movement.
Right.
Okay, movement, focus, depth of field. Okay, and then the other things are composition, which is important. So cross points, and that's how that works. And again, I told you this. If you need to at any point to say, come back to use the rest of the session, you can go out and shoot and try some of these, and we can split the session up at 2 and then just bring me back your problems. But I want you to get to the point where you're frustrated, because if you're frustrated, that means you've really tried and you have some of it down, and I can help you. But that's up to you. That depends on how you want to learn. So, okay.
Yeah, that'll probably be what the way I'll go. But this is good stuff already. I'm
not holding anything back, and so if I want you guys to get better. Everyone that's done this here, I want you to get better because I think it's going to help me in the long run. And so, and not only that, but I'm really proud of these. I'm proud of some of the things the people are doing. I don't know what to call you, students or mentors or what, but it really boggles my mind to see such a change in the images, and that makes me so happy. Based on what you just saw, what direction do you want to go with this? I mean, do you want to see me edit a different image? Better feel for it?
Yes, because I was at the back of my mind. I was thinking of an image of mine that we could try to put through the same treatment. But just the basic things that you start out with.
Yeah, but I think the penny drops when people see me, work on one of those, and I think you start to get it. So,
movement. Yeah, the more movement and focus, especially in these images which are sort of portrait and landscape things. I think I can immediately rustle up one or the other, but I don't think right now in my mind. I don't think I have one which I'll deliberately kind of catch a subject with some,
I also want to explain to you how I shot this image and why. So I want to explain to you some other important things about it. What's important about this is, number one, is negative space. When I'm looking at a subject, I'm not just looking at a subject. I'm looking at the background in relation to the subject. So her upper body is framed by this green here, this nice negative space, and both of their heads are below the horizon line. If you get this head too close to the horizon line right here, it's distracting. Okay? So I'm also shooting, I'm laying on the ground, I'm shooting up. I've used this location because this is a natural backdrop. Okay, so I haven't just chosen a flat location with the road on it. It wouldn't work. This location has to have a backdrop where I can put their heads below the horizon line. There's all kinds of things you can use. You can use trees, you can use whatever, but this negative space around them is very important. Okay, and it's important that you keep them below the horizon line.
I just wanted to ask about that. Are you necessarily trying to keep it below the horizon line, or you're trying to just avoid the horizon line going through the image?
I'm trying to keep the subject below the horizon line. And listen,
because one of the image of yours, I don't know what you call it, the old man with the it's your desktop actually. With your with his hair blown thing. That one's absolutely.
I did a tutorial on that for 500px. Did you read that?
Yes, I did.
But do you want to see me make it in person?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. Let me go to hold on here really quick. Let me grab that raw file, and I'll show you how I did it, because not many people have ever seen. Not even many people have even ever seen the negative. I mean the actual image. So I'm going to show you that. Hold on here really quick.
Are so similar to so many other diseases that people.
Hey, babe, would you mind making some coffee when you get a chance? Oh man, I need to get a secretary. You there?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go grab that image, the raw image, and I'm going to show you that's a very simple image to edit. And I don't use a flash or reflectors, but if you know how to use Lightroom, you don't have to, and you're actually going to get a better result.
Wow.
Let's go to that photograph. So when I was shooting that photograph, I was actually shooting at 6 frames a second, and it was in a really emergency situation. This is a serious storm coming in back here. This vignette is from a lens cap that was loosed, right? So I put James here on purpose. I don't have to transpose any sky detail in this. I know that I have enough sky detail that I don't have to put him below the horizon line. Because that's what we're after, these clouds too, in this situation. So if I would have had to transpose it or put him in a place where I knew we were going to have to cut around each one of these hairs, which would be impossible, not impossible, but it would have been difficult and time-consuming.
Yeah.
I would have put him below the horizon line. So shooting at 6 frames per second, 1, 2, you can see his hair start to move.
Right.
So because I don't have any control over his hair, I'm having to really just shoot continuously and hope something comes out.
Right.
Okay? Wind's all blowing to the side, big storm coming in. And anyway, we shoot like this until eventually I see this in the camera. And we have this really beautiful, it's just neat how the hair is going straight up.
Right.
And it's the only image like that. The rest is all going to the side. So it was almost like the wind came around and lifted it up. And so the minute I saw this in the camera, I knew this was it. So let's bring this in, and I'll give you a quick thing on how I did this here. So I'm going to reset this. This is the image out of the camera. So my first thing I need to do is I need to compose. I need to come in here and I'll have to look at all my valuable points, just kind of figure it out. I see two, the minute I press this, I see this pole right here, okay?
Right.
There's one, and we can line that up. I'm going to bring this up. And my second one is kind of right here, right down the shirt collar. Very important, and it still intersects on his head. So I bring this up like this, and at this point I can just kind of bring it down.
Wow.
So there's our crop, okay? We have a neat leading line coming out here, taking us down to the road, which takes us straight to the center of the image and back to the subject. Okay, so this was my frame. So from this, this is how I edited this. So I'll show you. I'm going to shut this out. What I'm concerned about here is I'm not seeing enough detail in the sky. Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, when I get in Lightroom, I want to see more sky detail. How am I going to do that? I simply took the clarity knob in Lightroom, and you see it start to come out the minute I move it up.
Right.
Okay, it affected a lot of the things when I did that, but it doesn't matter because I can go in and change that. The other thing, that there was actually a sun setting behind the storm, and so I wanted to bring a little bit of color into that, so I go in my saturation until that starts to come in. I'm ignoring everything about this photo except the sky and this little plane. And on this, I'm going to take it into Photoshop. I had lost the word. Oh, see, that's why I do it as a smart layer. For some reason, a smart layer, it'll render. A smart object. Huh. Come on, man.
Thinking.
Well, we'll get it here. We'll just check it. We'll work it around and keep trying. Render. Unbelievable. Something about go-to meeting. I don't understand it. Let's try. I mean, if I have to, here, I know what I'll do. I'll export to my desktop, and we'll just trick it that way. That way we can do both. And shoot. Lightroom and go-to meeting. Boy, it's a bad mix. Photoshop, it doesn't. Yeah, Photoshop, it doesn't mind for some reason. Yeah, but I'm using a computer with a dedicated graphics card, memory card. I mean, all that stuff, and it just doesn't have enough power.
That could be. That could be.
Not responding. In task.
No.
I'll shut this back down too, so we'll get it. Kind of hard to keep pace with that. Okay, so we're just going to start it here again. I'm going to try it in Photoshop this time. Edit. Open a smart object. Nope. No go.
Hmm.
Isn't that crazy? Have you ever seen that? Oh, here it goes.
Yeah, no, but I've never used GoToMeetings either.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so, but anyway, I got it to open this time just as a basic. So, okay, this is my background layer for all the sky detail, okay? This is how simple this edit was. I have what I care about in this. That's all I care about. So now I'm going to go back down to my clarity slider, bump it back down, and now I care about James. I want to know how James looks. Take my vibrance back down, and then we're missing a lot of detail in his face. I purposely underexposed this shot because I was worried about sky detail. I knew I could bring him back in Lightroom because it was a raw file. So I'm going to bump up my exposure this time, only looking at James. I don't care how this looks. We have how that looks in the other background layer, okay? And I like this right here. So I'm going to take this into Photoshop. Okay? I'm going to take our background layer with the sky, I'm going to put it over James, snap it in, mask, and I'm going to take my black brush and start to paint James in. You see that?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't think, you know, when I was talking to 500px, I didn't really have a lot of time. I mean, I think I kind of explained this on here. But it's hard to get it until you absolutely see it because it's really so easy. And then there's other things we can do on here to try to blend out the background. We can take, because you can see some highlights in here and the road looks really flat. We can just start to paint that natural end that we had in the foreground with James until it just kind of starts to come in a little bit. But you can take as much time on this as you want to. And then, you know, we just put a, but that's really it. And then we put a layer over the top. I mean, I did a little bit of sharpening on his eye. But that's it. That's the image. Very quick to make. And without a flash. So people want to know why I didn't use a flash or if I had a flash. Some people didn't believe me. And so, but it's so simple. The information's all there. Had I had a flash or had to use a flash, I never would have got this image.
Yeah.
So a flash is just a handicap, and I think people are amazed when they come in my office and they look at my camera equipment because that's so little to do with what I do. And it's so little to do with the final product. It really just captures a skeleton that I'm able to come home and work with, and so that's that image as well. And that's just another way we can use Lightroom and Photoshop in conjunction with just very simple tools. But you have to learn to only focus on a certain subject in there. You have to be able to see the image in layers. And so that's what I've done. And then I'm not sure, you know, where you want to go from there if you want to.
Well, his eyes, the final image seemed to have, it was the detail in his, not just his face, that we got.
Let me show you how I did that.
Yeah. You...
But there was more to it than that.
Okay.
I'm going to show you. Okay, so if you want to see the whole, all that, I'll show you how I did that. I wasn't sure how much time you wanted to. Yeah, I wasn't sure how much time you wanted to.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You didn't do anything special to. You didn't have to do anything special. I didn't. You know, before you zoomed in.
Yeah, to his eyes, I did do something special. I'll show you what I did. Okay. This is a plain layer, plain transparent layer, because this is valuable. I'm going to fill it with a gray, 50% gray. Have you done this before?
No.
Okay, let me show you something then before I do this. Let's take, have you dodged and burned?
Very little, but.
These, let me show you what happens when we dodge and burn, okay? When we take this and we use a dodge and we're dodging our highlights and exposures, okay? What it really does is it burns, but it also changes the color. See the color come out in this?
Yes.
When I use the brush, I'm going to show you something. We only want to affect the exposure with that, and this is how we do it. We're going to take a layer, blank layer, and we're going to fill it. Edit, fill with 50% gray, okay? That's going to take color out of the equation when we do that. So I'm going to fill it with 50% gray, change my blending mode to overlay, okay? And that takes it all out, makes it neutral. But now let's go in and dodge. Now it's not changing the color, okay? It's only changing the exposure. It's making my highlights lighter and my darks darker if I want to burn. So always burn. Unless your goal is to change the color, always burn on a 50% gray layer, okay? So in order for me to bring out the detail in his eyes, this is another way you can sharpen. You don't have to just sharpen using a sharpening tool. You can use it yourself. You can sharpen this yourself. And that's all I did was I took a dodge tool, okay? I ran it over the highlights in his eyes over a 50% gray layer like this. And so it's bringing this out, okay? So let's back up and look at this image now. We already have more eye detail, okay? Almost like a catch light.
All right.
So from there, I'm going to flatten this image. I just wanted to burn the highlights out of it. And then I'm going to take a sharpen tool, just a few swipes over the eyes. And that's it. And now you have it. It's a huge difference. And it's such a simple thing to do. So there are 1,000 ways to do one thing in Photoshop, you know. So I've had to learn because I make so many images. I have so many clients. I've had to learn to do it simply. And simple, the less you mess with the image, the more powerful it is.
Yeah.
So we're really not doing anything that's, you know, that's misleading or anything like that. But we're taking out the things we don't like, and we're accentuating the things we do by showing detail in the places that need detail, and even showing detail in blur. But so that's that image, and that's how we did it.
Okay. That's impressive. Okay.
And even looking through some of these, I mean, these, okay, so, you know, I make these reflections. They're not like this. I make this reflection. This guy wasn't in here. This was just a black plain image when I did it.
Can we see that one?
Yeah, do you want to see me make one?
Yes.
Let's go make one from the chair. I didn't spend a lot of time on the chair, and everybody liked that image. I'm going to see if we can. Let me close this down. Okay, I have to use a restroom really quick. Do you mind?
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'd better take advantage of it.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's just take a quick break. I'm just going to leave the phone on, though, and then I'll wait for you. Deji?
Yeah. I thought you said, yeah, we'll take a break now, like a couple minutes. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Right there. Are you there?
Yep, I am.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we're going to look at a reflection image. Are you getting something out of this so far?
I am. I'm going to have, when we're done, I'm going to have to, throw myself in and try some of this stuff out. It's
okay. I just want to make sure that it's going. I just want to make sure you're getting what you expected, or we're going your direction. But I think after watching this a few times and trying these things yourself that are very simple, I think it'll improve your editing.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, there's really no tricks here.
There's just sort of they kind of fly off your fingertips, and for me, they'll be new, so they'll take a bit of.
They will for anybody, absolutely, but it just takes practice. And the other thing is, it flies off my fingertips because I'm using a tablet. And did you say you do use one?
Yes, I've got one. Yes.
Then you have a huge advantage. I'm surprised at the people that don't use them. I can't even imagine. It is a huge advantage.
And that's impressive because I thought if you had asked me, I would have thought tablets were most important for doing selection. But you've used them so far in this session for.
I haven't used a single selection. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very time-consuming, and if your changes that you're making to the image are subtle enough, the brush will blend it. So I'm not making any huge adjustments to one part of an image with, that's, I mean, you want to be careful of haloing always, but you can just do that. You do it in separate layers and then back it down, and then you can always go take out any layer. I think that's part of the success of the images is that you don't see any real reflection. Everything's blended in. So, and you don't have to put one sky in. You really blend the two. And I do the same thing in these. I'll show you in this reflection. I had to get some coffee. Let's see here. This is just absurd. I wonder if I can call them and ask them, what's going on with this?
You mean the go-to-meeting folks, or the
go-to-meeting? Go-to-meeting. And see if there's a setting or something I could change in my performance options, but I don't think so. Well, this is good. We have this at least. So let's look at, okay, what was her name? It was Holly White. Let's look at Holly's photos. And she was the one in the chair, and we'll go over those because those images, too, those are really nothing like the final image. I mean, there's the finished up there. I can find her in that chair again. See, the images were pretty out of the camera. Why is that?
Yeah.
Really. This I don't have great focus here, and I would have probably switched that at some point. Pretty. I like that. I think that's kind of cool. I like the look on her face too. Let's work on this. And this, you might see this on 500px later. That's evocative enough. I like that.
All right. Again, this is the 85-1.2, right? Or
What's that?
The lens you're using, is it the same 85 1.2?
85 1.2. This was shot at 1.2 too. It's very difficult because when I'm shooting at 1.2, I have to shoot at a select point. I have to look at the back of my camera, and then I have to adjust. On this one, I tried 2 focus points. I tried her face, and then I tried her shoulder. Do you have that lens?
Yes, I do. Yeah, that's, I'm studying it very carefully.
Another trick you can do is reset the lens. Focus on this part over here. Watch the lens focus, and then refocus on this, and then shoot again. Okay? Because sometimes it just needs a quick reset.
Yeah,
Again, angle was everything on this image. I'm physically laying in the water, which was very uncomfortable.
Well, to get yeah.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. Okay, so that's closed down. My import dialog box is closed down. Let's try it again. But I do like that photo. We're going to do something really neat with this. Something a little more dramatic. Yeah, for some reason I really like the look on her face in that. I'm going to see if I got a different foot position. Something a little more feminine, maybe.
Is that it?
This is nice, and I like the way this toe is feminine now. Okay, I'm going to see if she at some point lifted it out of the water, but it should be pointed. I don't like that coming off. I think this was probably it. We'll bring in a few of these, and I don't like the smile as much. Just don't know how we're going to. I want to be able to grab them. Oh boy. That is frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, is it frozen again? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It'll make it worth it when we can get it in. Now, when I shot, you see how I got a little bit of that horizon line under the chair?
Yep.
That gives us a nice, distinct look to it. Oh, yay, we got this. I'm excited about this image. I want to show you something I just noticed. Check this out. It reminds me of this. About the chair.
I see.
So it's kind of my, I mean, obviously it's not exactly, it's just the manner and the sky in the background. So I kind of want to do something like that. We might even call it Mona Lisa for 500 PS. But at least I got it in. Now it's not responding. That's fine. Close the program.
Wow.
If I have to, we'll reset the computer completely and see. But
yeah,
but we're going to get it. You're going to learn. It's not. I don't think it's a computer issue. I'm using the most powerful Alienware you can buy, and I mean it's got plenty of power. Let's see. Boy, that is frustrating. Did it even grab it? Do I even have the image? Never dealt with anything like that. Huh. I'll be damned. It didn't even get it. Even though it said it brought it in.
Huh.
go.
There we go.
I'm really sorry. So, we'll just stretch it to 6 hours. We'll say 6 hours because it glitches, so don't worry about that.
Sure.
Oh, come on, man. This is driving me insane. I just want the damn photograph. Okay.
It doesn't have to do with the external drive that it's coming from, or because when you're not, you don't have I have had the occasional problem with importing from some external drive. This is not.
It could be from an external drive, but I just don't see that happening because this only happens when I'm on GoToMeeting.
Oh, I see.
So,
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it says it's in there, but I don't know if it's in there. But it's not responding. And so where is it? This is previous import. I think it grabbed it. I'm going to try one more time, and if I have to, we're just going to have to shut the computer down and then do a reset on it. And then reconnect. Let me see what else is going on here. Oh, this is a helper, 32-bit, Alien Fusion controller. See, that probably doesn't need to be running. And task. In where FX control and path. Yeah, but it's funny if you look at the Alienware, it's really taxing my system. Desktop Windows Manager. Okay, let's try this and see if shutting down some of those things helps a little bit. Well, I've got the image, so that's the good news. You don't have to import. But it's stuck. Okay. No. Oh, there's our develop module. Well, that's good news. That's probably the one we've got. Okay, we're going to work on composition. Okay. I'm going to make this a vertical image. Okay, I think that's how we're going to do this. I think we're going to go ahead and do this. Actually, let me look.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I am going to do a vertical image on this.
Yeah.
We're going to do a portrait. Okay. So I've got that cropped. I'm going to up my exposure a little bit. I'm going to take a look at her. Boy, we've got nice sharp focus on there. I mean, it's not perfect, but I can really straighten some of that up. I'm going to look at my histogram on this. I'm also going to bump my highlights up and just see what it does to her skin tone. Wish I could move that, but that's not going to happen. All right, let's bump our highlights up here. I'm more worried about her in this, okay? And it's bringing out so much detail in this, in the chair, because I'm going to change that sky anyway. We're going to put something more dramatic in. I'm going to pull my blacks up a little bit, see if we can get some more dress detail. I want as much detail as I can going into this. Okay, I'm going to take this. I'm going to go to Photoshop, CC, edit in. It's going to render. That's good news. And we're going to start get to work on a reflection, okay?
Yeah.
In order to do that, I'm going to build a background, canvas size, 3, 5, this should suffice. I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to edit, transform, flip vertical. I'm going to move this down, and I'm going to, boy, I wish I could get that to move. This, what a frustrating program. I can move it up and down, but I can't move it side to side. I'm going to lower the opacity on this so I make sure we line our chair up here at the bottom just right in this flip, okay? So we can see that start to go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump the opacity back up. I'm going to put a layer mask on this top. And I'm going to take black, and I'm going to start to go to my brush tool. 100% opacity, and start painting down and getting the bottom of that off. The part of this image I'm really concerned about when I'm painting this is where the desk and the chair, or where the chair and the feet meet the water. Okay? This blow doesn't have to be perfect because we're just going to blur that anyway. So, but see, this is nice detail in here. You still want to kind of take this across here. Just those really tiny details. And then with a white brush, make sure this is kind of in here. Okay, so you can see some of that start to come back in. And I'm going to look over here too and just make sure nothing's like blare or blurred really bad. Okay, and I like this, so I'm going to kind of set composition here. I'm going to leave some room to work too. So. Sorry, here that's going to be too big. I'm going to figure out my focus points later. Now, if we're looking at a reflection in this, it's a real image. We're only going to see her reflection in the water. We're not going to see this landscape, okay? So we got to go through and get that out. And we're just going to use black paint. Okay, so we're going to take out some of this parts of the water. We're going to put in some of that original blur that was in the first image in here. We don't have to get dead on around the ankles or feet, okay? We just have to get out any sign of landscape. This is tough in here, but we can take these out. So that's pretty nice. I am going to blur this part with a little bit of this white color. Just a soft layer. I want that transition to be just a little bit smoother. So I'm going to take this over the top like that. Okay, I'm going to back this up. Okay, I'm going to kind of look at this, but what I'm going to do here is, I'll try to put that on there. I'm going to blur this top layer so we can kind of blur her into the background here, and then I'm just going to take a look and see. I'm going to go to Blur, Motion Blur, set my angle up and down, and just set it till it just starts to get kind of recognizable, about like that, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to select that. I'm going to go up, and I don't like those white layers on top. I might back these down a little bit and figure out if we can't get some of that back in by blending later, maybe. But I like the blur so far. I know. Let's try another color. That's a little bit better. So going from there, I'm going to flatten it. Okay.
Right.
Commit to that. I'm going to take this image that we started out with. I'm going to go back into Edit, Photoshop CC. I'm going to open it up again. I'm going to get it separate. I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. We're going to take this photo, put it over the top of this one. Make sure this all lines up just right here. So we got to set it. Should snap in. Yeah, this is on. Okay. Now I've got this over the top. I'm going to take this. I'm going to select everything down here below the chair. I'm going to edit, transform, scale. I'm going to pull this down a little bit more so this goes over the top, okay? Because what that does is it starts to blend in our foreground with our background, but you still have some kind of things down here where it's stretching out a little bit. The idea is to kind of get rid of those. But this is about right here, and we can come in here and get that out, and we'll do that. I'm going to mask some of this off too. I'm going to, here we're just going to brighten our reflection up a little bit. By painting some of that off. I got some haloing there, which we don't want, and we're not at 100% opacity, so I just need to be more careful coming through here, not to hit the edges, because the worst thing we can do is get haloing, and it's really not fixable. But this is nice. We're going to go try to fix these streaks in here really quick. Bring some of this detail out of this. I haloed that there. So. This is really kind of painting here. This is tough. This is painting, and you have to just be able to have an eye for it. And luckily, I can draw and paint too on paper, and so that's a huge advantage for me. I was actually trained as an illustrator. And this, I'm going to go ahead and take this image. I'm going to flatten it. And then I'm going to look at my problems and see what I got here. My problems are these streaks down here in the water. But overall, I kind of like how it's coming together. I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to come up here. Let's try a patch tool. I'm going to try a patch tool and select these lines. I'm just going to move it over here and see if this gets rid of it. May, it may not. It did. So patch tool is going to work on these, and then we'll just blur it out some more. We'll really hide it. So I'm going to bring the patch tool clear over here on this one. That's working. See it? I mean, you can still see a little bit in here, but this can be sold as blur.
Right.
Just going to try to look. And then I'm going to back this down and just see, because when you back these down, you're more apt to see things in here that shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take one more. I think I'm going to try one more on here and see if we can't see what it does to it. It's not. Well, I'm not going to worry about that for now. I'm going to back off right here. I'm going to save this file because we've kind of got our reflection. Now, there's one other thing I'm going to do, though. I'm going to do a motion side-to-side blur, filter, blur, motion blur, and start to blend this in a little more. I'm going to go side-to-side on this layer, okay? Just going to shake it up just a little bit more. So I blurred the whole image. I'm going to mask it. I'm going to paint out my blur up top. And we've got an image here, so this is going to work out. I'm going to save this, and we're going to start putting sky detail in the back. I'm going to take a gradient here in Lightroom and just look at some things too really quick. I'm going to look at saturation. I'm going to try lowering the exposure up to highlights and just see. I always look at this image to see how it's going to affect, because this is how this is how your audience is presented. This is how they see the image first. They typically see it on a cell phone, or they see it on a computer screen. It's always smaller, so I'm constantly going through that image just to see what it's going to look like and what the impact is. Highlights are up here. Still has a little bit of stretch going on down here, but I think that's okay. We can paint over that. Okay, anyway, we're going to paint some sky detail into this.
Okay.
So, looking at the lighting direction on her, she was obviously lit by this way, okay, because you can see where the shadows are at the back. She's got light on her, so we have to look for a sky that's that directional. So we're going to have to shut down light on it. And path. Ports. Okay, that's gone. So on this one, I'm going to go look through my blurred sunsets again, because some of these blurred sunsets I have, they only have clouds in them. They don't even have sunsets. But I shoot like the opposite way. If the clouds are pretty that night, just to get those sunset clouds. And so I have some of those, and I'm going to grab some. Nice. These are nice. We're going to take these in, okay? Because this matches. If I go back and look at her, this is going to match some of her skin tones too. Plus, we already had this horizon set in. Do you see that, Digi?
Yep.
Okay, cool. We're going to. This is the sky detail we're going to put in. And this is really the time-consuming part of these reflection shots. Come in here, image, canvas, put canvas over it, okay? And we're going to start to paint in some sky detail. The neat thing about this image, it doesn't require a lot because this already has nice detail already in it, and that's really rare to get that kind of exposure. But we can take this like this and just kind of start to look by taking a black brush, 100% opacity, and painting behind it. You see it start to come in? And you just kind of move it to where you want your, how you want it to look. I mean, to have and how much you want in it. The other thing is I can see this kind of has this white misty layer over it. I'm going to select this. Let's grab this lighter color here and just put it over the top of that. See what that does to those clouds. Okay, that's going to start to blend it in a little bit. We can always bring that detail back out. Are you there?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can. Sorry. We can come in here like this. Just kind of do this. I'm really experimenting. I'm trying to see what I like here. Let's try bumping the brightness up on the sky. Yeah, we got it right there. Okay, so we have some extra sky detail in here we didn't have. I think for you, in order for you to learn this, you're going to have to go out and get some skies of your own.
Yeah, yeah.
Really experiment with it, because that's something a lot of people don't know. I mean, they don't know that I go out and shoot through the skies. They think it's a software, but it's not a software, and that's why the images look so natural, because they're real blurred out of the same lens. And I even try to use something out of the similar lighting condition. So
yeah.
that's why you have that. And so I'm going to put this in here, okay, with this sky detail, and we can actually go with a saturation brush later and bring out some of these to match her skin tone. But I really want to show you how we would get this reflection in the water. I don't know why I did that in that image, but I'm going to take this anyway back into this. So it's going to work the same way. I'm just going to put her over the top here. She's not on. I'm going to line this up. Come on, man. I think that's about right. Okay. So on this image, I'm just going to paint the blur out of the bottom, because it's only our skyline really mattered on this, and I kind of did that the opposite way that I showed up. So there we have a little bit of sky detail in this. Now on this one, I'm just going to go back to my clouds in Lightroom, Photo, Edit in, Photoshop CC. edit, image, canvas size. Okay, and I'm going to do the opposite of this. The same thing I did on the other one. I'm just going to flip it horizontal. Okay, I'm going to grab my reflection shot that I already have made. Where is it? There it is. I'm going to pull it into this, and I'm going to try to match some. This is really subtle up here, so this isn't going to matter as much. I'm going to try to match some of these details up to the sky. Okay, and I'm going to mask it out. Go to black. I'm going to get a little closer here. I'm going to try a lower opacity, like 44, and just start to put some of this in down here like that. See that go in? Some parts of this photo image I really don't like, and hopefully we can pull this out. One of it is, some of it's right here in this chair. It just doesn't look right to me, and this might help a little bit. That's starting to come out, kind of. I almost feel like it should be more defined, but it's okay. Okay, this is nice. On this, I'm actually going to use a blur software, which I very rarely use on these clouds, I think. Let me look and see if that layer. I'm just painting too, Desi. So I'm doing things that we did before, but I'm just painting the taste. So that's what I'm spending time on. I'm not switching blending modes or using a certain tool or anything like that. I'm just trying to speed this part up for you. But yeah, I'm just kind of trying to make adjustments here that are going to be up to you anyway. I mean, it's really going to be up to your eye. This is too much detail in the sky down here. Up here, it's fine. So I'm going to duplicate the sky layer on the bottom. I'm going to go to Filter. And this is my favorite blur software if I use blur software, and it's Alien Skin. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I've never used it. I don't have it.
It's an unbelievable product, and it's probably the closest. Most of my friends use it too. They're just lousy customer service and lousy sales, but the product, if you take the time to learn it, is really good. So,
what does it do? What's it?
I'm going to blur to this. It's really natural to that background layer. We just put a blur. Here, I'll show. Let me get this out really quick. I'm going to go ahead and commit to this image because we're just going to make some local changes here in a little bit. But let's add it to this whole layer. So let's go to Filter, Alien Skin Bokeh, and you can adjust the bokeh here on the image, okay, which I might actually put some more blur on that bottom anyway because it's looking kind of cool. You can adjust the twist, which the 85mm 1.2 has a lot of twist out of the lens. If you've ever shot somebody up close with it and then looked in the back, you'll see that the background starts to twist.
Right.
So on this, I'm going to add it to this whole bottom layer. I'm going to paint it off the top.
Oh.
Yeah, isn't that pretty cool? And so then we start to bring out detail. Then we have this nice classy reflection down here. There's one other thing I'm going to do to blend this, because it's really important I try to blend this down here. It's also important that I don't have the foot blurred, which I do. I'm going to take that off here. Hopefully, I might have done that on an earlier blur layer, and if I did, that's not good. So that's something I missed, but it looks like I may have. I can also cover my tracks by grabbing this foot out of here, coming in, actually we'll do that in a second. I'm going to flatten this, then we'll come paint our foot back in. I can grab this out of here where the foot's in focus. Got to get this lined up first. And then take this bottom layer with my blur in it, put it on top, and see where this foot's blurred. Just put a mask over it. This is an easy repair. Whoop, edit, step back. should be. Let's take a look at the sunset. Oh, that's because it's on 58%. Okay, I'm just going to paint over it to see that foot go back into focus.
Right.
So that I just repaired that. That's all I did. So anyway, we got that back. Okay, and this image is starting to come together. Like I said, there's still some points in here I'm just not sold on. I think this is a little dark in here. I don't like any of that color. I'm just going to try a few dabs of paint, maybe with this lighter blue to liven those areas up. They just look dead to me. So I'm just going to come put this in here like that. You're right in there, so a little more contrast. And this is all by eye. And that already starting to look just a little bit better. Maybe a few there and back up the opacity. I'm going to make sure I have all the paint off of her leg. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So anyway, okay, now looking at this image, it's time. This is similar to what I would have wanted out of camera. So it's time to look at the things that we want to accentuate. What do we want to show off? And first thing is she had on some makeup here, some glitter on it. I'm just going to get that off of her face with a simple spot cleaning brush. There and there. I'm going to take my sharpening tool and I'm going to sharpen up her eyes. You don't have to do anything real powerful in this because the eyes are so far out, but they just have to give the illusion of a nice soft focus there. I'm also going to look at crop. I'm going to look at a few different crops here and see what my options are. I don't want to crop her head off, but maybe if we just bring this out, come in closer to her, I think that's probably a better crop. Other thing I want to look at is I want to see more detail on that chair. So I'm going to go back to Actions, and I'm going to Jessica's detail brush. Extra sharp detail brush. Continue. Take some white, and I'm going to paint over this and just bring those legs out so that's stuff enough. Like, I also want to make sure, though, that, see, I got a little bit of some haloing. It's actually a lot of noise. I'm just going to go ahead and clean that up around this because I don't want that. But I do want some of this. I mean, you know, some of that detail in that chair there, but I want to make sure I get all this haloing off, too. Because when I paint over that blue water, it adds a bunch of noise that I don't want. Some places I do want it, but you can spend as much time on that as you want just to get it all off. So there, now the chair detail is out more.
Right.
And now I'm going to go look at film finishes. Put over the top of it. Filter. I'm going to go to my Nick collection. Color Effects Pro 4 Plus. And see, that always makes such a huge difference right off the bat.
Right. Right. Yep.
But it's just the settings. I mean, I've learned to use those settings so well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And then here it comes, so there it goes. And you've got those nice dramatic skin tones and that nice neat light there. But that's you know, it's a pretty image. I'm not 100% sold on this area. I can try to fix it really quick just by going and duplicating it, edit, transform, flip horizontal, up, whoops, backward, edit, transform. And if this were a stock image, I most likely would go back in, or I just keep going until I can figure it out. So that's how I've learned everything else. I just go until I figure it out. How do I get rid of something I don't like? And that's really that's part of the secret to half of this. So
wow.
The thing that was the problem here was where this landscape was in that chair, and that's really what threw me off. So I know that as shooting now that, hey, we're going to have to not have this in that area. And so going back and looking at the original image, I will bet you, yes, this is the difference. We didn't have any landscape going through this major detail up here like we do in this one.
I see, yeah.
And that's why I'm having troubles with that. Well, no, I don't here, though, either. I mean, I don't have a lot. I have some, but maybe when painting this out, I should have just worried about the top and then not got this bottom part. I'm trying to think about how we would do that. But anyway, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to mask this out, Control-I. And I'm going to come here and see if I can't take some of that detail in with that just a little bit. Maybe in the legs. Have it come through a little bit without showing any of that background, just real slight. And then take that and just blur it. Do some local blurring adjustments on it maybe. See, it's starting to come out a little bit, and it's kind of fixing that area. So let's paint around this and take our time, and maybe we can get this. Maybe I can get this fixed. 100%. Come up here. Get down anything that looks jagged or halo-y. Already that looks better. So let's filter, blur, motion blur. See, that helped, didn't it? That's better. Back the opacity down just a little bit. But this is better. I like this chair detail in here now, so I think that's nice. Maybe I could even come in here with this black brush and see if I can't get some more out underneath it here. Some white. Yeah. Get the haloing off. But that's what it's all about. Just getting through it, figuring it out, and that's better. It's already got the blue layer on it. Cancel. Latin. Let's take our original. Where'd it go? I had it. One more blue layer over it with bokeh. So anyway, yep, that's it. So that's how I make one of those.
That is tough.
What's that?
That's the tough one. That's not that doesn't have the it doesn't fall to one's fingers as smoothly as the previous examples we worked in.
These are a lot of work. And so I kind of tell people that before we go through it, because this is mostly by eye. This is really artwork. And so, I'm not 100% satisfied with this. I don't think it's for 500px, but I think it was something I sat down and was working on myself. It's a puzzle I need to figure out. And that's what it's all about. The other ones, there's actual steps to them, and you can get some consistency. This is tough. And so, every time I'm going through one of these edits, right? Next time I go back, I will say, okay, what problems am I going to have when I invert this image? Okay, so that's how I'm thinking when I'm shooting. What problems am I going to have when I invert this image? Am I going to be able to make this realistic? And that's how I learn. So that's why I change my shooting style as I go out. And so on this one, you're selecting an image. I probably would have moved, I suppose I would have moved it out this way so we had a thinner landscape to work with and then faced her. I don't know. Maybe I would have moved the whole chair out this way and then shot this way so we were dealing with a thinner landscape. Does that make sense?
It does. Yes.
Because knowing that I have to paint that out, so that's something I have to think about next time I go out. And now I'm going out every night, and so, yeah. But see, I get frustrated too. I'm not perfect, but you kind of see the things that I use to change these things are very simple. It's white paint. It's switching things around. It's exposure straight out of the camera, and there's just a lot of different elements. So, I don't know. Based on that, I'm frustrated by that image. Can you tell my voice? I shouldn't take that out. I shouldn't take that out.
It's good to see that it's not all peaches and cream for you too.
Oh, it's not.
So you have to think your way.
Yeah, you never stop learning. I mean, ever. And so Yeah, that's what it is. But on that image, I see some difficulty, and it's not. Now on the road images, it's pretty super easy. But I can, as long as you're keeping the subject below the horizon line and you're keeping that nice negative space on them, even if you're using trees, I mean, you're really not going to run into anything that frustrating in post. But when you're trying to create a reflection of something, it's pretty difficult because you're not really dealing with a real image. Now you're doing some heavy manipulation, and so that's the difference. The road images, they're just basically two blended exposures, and then we paint in some detail with a saturation brush. We paint it in with a simple detail brush, and then that's about it. And a film lay over the top. So yeah, that's
all right. Let's try. Let me see if I send you a JPEG of mine, and if you were to sort of do a Jake Olson on it,
of course.
What might you?
Okay, so send it to me real quick. Send it to jakeolsonstudios@gmail.com.
jakeolsonstudios@gmail.com. Okay.
Correct, and I'll get it right now. Oh shoot, my FedEx guys here. Let me grab this. Thank you. Did I only get one today? Yeah, you only got one. Yep, that's fine. There you go. There you go. Have a good day. You too. All right, Jesse, let me know when you send it.
Sure. I'm just, I thought I had it.
And also, some of these things correctly, but later the kidnapping or now the job, whether it was a lot, not pretty happening still. They're kind of setting the message with it. Israel has to maintain compatibility.
That's where we go to the back off of the story, but that's very much.
Just give me a second. I thought I had this all.
Oh, you're fine, man.
I'm trying to see where
You are fine. You're just sending me an unprocessed image, right?
Yes.
Good.
Oh dear. Okay.
Well, you're fine.
All right. I'm just going to explain it using a preset, one of Lightroom's presets. Should I,
yeah, I would back it out and just send me one without any preset.
Okay. No, just the email, I don't think it adjusts, I think it has to do with the resolution in which it sends it, small, medium, large, or full size.
I would send as large as you can. I'll wait.
All right.
It's not a big deal. In fact, let me take the opportunity to grab some coffee. Is that okay?
Sorry?
Is it okay if I grab some coffee while you do it?
Sure.
I'll be right back. Yep.
just talking about a car. It's a matter of time to see the person the guy's up. So you're like,
Okay, there.
Hi.
Hello? You there?
Yes.
All right. Did you send it?
Yes, I actually sent two. One of them has just finished.
Look at it. Okay, so let's try this one.
All right.
Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm going to
Oh,
save
yeah.
this.
Okay.
Save image as desktop. We can't even see it. So this is in Tuscany?
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes. All right.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it. And you can see my screen, correct?
Yes, I can.
And this is a landscape. Let's see. Open with.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Okay, cool. I got a question for you. Did you only take one exposure of this, or did you take an exposure of the foreground and the sky?
No, I bracketed. I think I have about at least a stop difference. I think probably 3 images with
Okay, did you send that one to me?
No.
Okay, that's okay. We can do it without. Let's look at it without. Okay. First thing I would do is I would go to a curves layer on this, and this one can be a little bit different. Let's
Yes.
take a curves exposure, okay? And I want to bring that black side in this and get my contrast just right. In order to do that, I'm going to take this black eyedropper up here. You see it? And I'm going to go to the image and see what's supposed to be black and what isn't. I'm assuming this shadow area right down here should be black, so I'm going to press on it. Okay? That's going to bring out a lot of contrast in the image.
Right.
And that helped the image immediately right there, okay? So where was your focus point on this? And it could be, it doesn't look particularly sharp, but it could just be because it's a JPEG or it's a smaller image.
No, I don't think it was. I don't think it was sharp. I think I know what happened.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm going to show you what I would do in this. So we've already added the blacks to, okay, but I see some things in this about this image that are really pretty. Before we do that, though, I'm going to grab some sky detail. Let's grab something I have here. This was shot at this was shot at maybe 8. Is that right?
Yes, about 8. Yes. Yes.
Okay, and when you say this was backlit with the sun coming from over this way?
That's right.
Okay, let's look and see what I've got. So this is another example where you can also use sky. It doesn't even have to be from the same scene, but it could certainly be simple, or it could be similar. So if you wanted to do this, sorry, man. It's just how it is right now. Everybody that I took on, that's why I want to talk to them on the phone. It is a little glitchy. It's not perfect, and that's why I don't want to do groups. I just want to do one-on-one. Not only that, but I like talking to everybody. It's pretty cool, and
yeah. I
think everybody's getting more out of it this way too.
You
can imagine 30 other people chattering in the back. What a nightmare. So, okay. Oh, I hate this. I'm so sorry.
What is it called?
It'll be worth it though. We'll get a cool image out of this. So this is an easy thing for you to do. And I just want to learn how to look for a certain thing.
Yeah. That,
because the first thing we've got to go do is we've got to put in detail where detail's missing, and we've got to do that in the sky. You can even. Oh, I'm going to go shut. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to shut down in task, and then I'm going to go shut down Google. That seems to have been helping a little bit. I'm going to let my computer kind of catch up here. Well, might have just been it. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's just wait for it a little bit. I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to show you something while we wait for Lightroom to catch up. We can fix even without putting the sky detail in just yet. I would take the saturation sponge tool. Okay. Let's make a separate layer for this. And I've seen people make these images before, and I've kind of thought about how they did it. With these rolling hills, when this comes up like this, and it's really soft light. I've seen them in Palouse, in Washington. And you would take a sponge tool. There are saturations on about 20, and you would paint over these highlights. Anywhere you see these highlights, okay? I'm just taking my sponge tool. I'm coming over them, and you'll watch them start to come out. You see them start to come out? What you don't want to get is this little bit of yellow under here, some of these unnatural colors. So, but I see some greens, some really pretty greens. I'm actually going to bump this up, coming through this valley. And I'm just going to kind of paint them in, okay? And you can see that all starting to come in. It's not really a dodge and burn technique, but it's all already along these little lines, making a big image and a difference, just making it a little more dynamic.
Oh, wow.
You see that?
Yeah.
And I'm using a simple sponge tool. Okay, that gets better. What's that?
No, I'm just trying to figure out where that sponge tool.
It's right over here on the left side in CC.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Okay, and just paint over the highlights. You don't want to paint over the high image. If you would have got a little bit more, this looks like a building in here. This is a neat detail. You can come in and actually paint in the highlights on the side of the building. Okay.
Wow.
Only the highlights. You don't want to do them. See it brought the detail just out and back.
Yeah.
And as it comes up in here with this sponge tool, these are trickier down here. These are a little bit trickier because this is blended out and it has this haze on it. You want to be very careful because it starts to add that orange or that unnatural look to it. But if you go really lightly and then just threw a couple things up here, you're going to add depth. You just want to make local saturation adjustments.
Right.
Okay. The other thing we can do in this image is if we want to bring that back together is you can duplicate this, get rid of some of that haze in the back, filter, and just go to your brightness, image adjustments and brightness, and back the brightness down, okay? Because this is starting to look better back here, right? Again, do this image in layers. Okay, this is starting to look better in the back, but it ruins our front, so we just have to go paint that effect out of the front. Okay? So now we have some more detail in the back of the image here, and then you can go make some more adjustments. And you could even do a whole other curves layer until you start to get that stuff to show up better in the back. We'll try it. Curves. Try one of these little black trees here. And then back it down maybe to where you like how that looks and starts to come up in the back. And then mask it out in the front. Let's try to bring the sky into this now, see what we can do. You know, portraits you can get away with a lot more as far as, you know, glowy effects and things like that when you're dealing with people. When you're dealing with a landscape, you want to show as much detail as you possibly can. So Lightroom's not going to let me import anything, probably unless we shut the computer down. So instead of doing that, I'm going to use the sky for that, okay? Because this sky will actually work. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But I'll show you how we would use it. Because this actually has some of the things in it. But we want to get our perspective just right by using the sky. I think, did I bring in some? We'll make this work. This actually has some of this very similar tones that sky already has, and we'll just use that lower strip. I'm going to flatten it. I'm going to put a canvas on this. See, in this image, we really have a directional sky. This isn't a backlit situation. I can make it look like it's backlit. I'm gonna image, edit, transform, and I'm gonna scale this so it's more to that perspective. Okay, I'm gonna have that in the background of this now, and it's more of the perspective you took it from. It's not quite exact. Probably a little stretched out. That was a little more realistic looking to me, and I'm going to grab Tuscany and bring it up here. These are different things, but I'm going to take a brush. Now, if you had another exposure of this with the sky, this is the same thing you would do. You would paint it in. I know a lot of people are using like luminance masks, but you can already see how much more dynamic the image is now at this point. I mean, just one swipe and a new sky in it, okay? So, and I like this little bit of haze over this because it really blends the skyline into those clouds. I'm going to take our front layer, I'm going to select it, edit, and I'm going to pull it up. Again, it's about the blending. So now we have that pink in there. Deselect, and I'm going to come back in here with white. I'm going to paint over that all just a little bit. So this way we're pulling some of your native foreground into that photo. You see it go? And now you have the haze back in there too. And when I do that, I'm not affecting anything that was already in there. I'm only affecting the things that we added. So let's see here. Composition-wise, you know, you have this across here. That's nice.
Yeah.
But already, you know, much more dynamic image. You also have that lower third line across from there.
Yeah.
Let's take it into Lightroom and see what we can do in there. If it will let us. Because we can make some clarity adjustments, and we can do it with these guys. So we can come down here. Whoa, what happened? Oh, I hit something. I'm going to take. Have you used these before? These gradients?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I'm going to use a gradient on this. Let's grab a gradient. I'm going to pull it up from the top. I can't even see the gradient. Lightroom is fighting me so bad right now. It does not want to help. And I'm going to bump the saturation up on the gradient. Okay, just from the lower bottom, and just see what that does. It's pretty nice. And I'm going to try clarity too. Clarity, we don't have enough sharpness to use clarity on this, but I want to be able to recover some of that shadow detail. So I'm going to pull my shadows up. That's really nice. And then I'm going to use a gradient on the top. This was a little saturated down here at the bottom for me, but you know, from there I think we already have a better image.
We do.
And so that's what I mean. That's how I would do it. But you're pulling out as much detail in. You're adding detail where you can get away with it, like we did up here, and this is the greatest job. But when you add a sky, don't make a selection and fill it in, because you will see a definite line and get some haloing from around that selection. Paint it in using your eye until it starts to blend. And not only that, but you get better at that. That's something you just need to practice. Everybody does. It's just that blending without using selection.
I see.
You know, I look at some people's images, and what's it? Uniform swipes when you're painting. Uniform swipes. So important, because that's going to bring out that background in a certain way, okay? Instead of, you can't just take a paintbrush and paint it where you want to see it. You have to use uniform swipes throughout the image at the same capacity. Uniform swipes. Where you'll learn how I use uniform swipes, easy, is when you go back to the part of the tutorial where I did where I transposed the sky on the road.
Okay.
Okay, and with trial and error, you'll start to see the value in that.
Okay. All right. That's I can tell you. Well, it looks better the way you're showing me, but not sure. I've always been used to watching people do it using selections, but
yeah,
it seems to be a whole lot more successful.
I think this is more successful, and the more successful it is because we're blending exposures here. So you're blending two together, and when you're blending, you're actually taking, you have a smoother gradient, so there's nothing about it. I mean, looking at this image, I really didn't do a very good job when we blended that exposure in the back, but you can take your time on this, but you really want to do it with as many clean swipes as you can, okay? Everything is usually a swipe to the scene. I want to make sure it has a uniform fading to it, and a uniform gradient throughout the scene. Like the sky looks nice to me. And then down here we did, we just did some local saturation adjustments just over the highlights.
Okay, using the sponge tool thing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So now, you suggest to build up a library of personal library of skies, one should.
I absolutely do, and different focuses. If you're going to focus on landscapes, you want those to be in focus. I mean, if you're going to shoot a landscape where you're using multiple focus points, like a lot of people I know do, you're going to want that sky to be tack sharp, okay?
Right.
If you're going to take one exposure, one focus point, you want it to be slightly off. I mean, you want it to be believable. The photo that you take, these stock skies have to fit into the scene, so they have to fit into their focus-wise, they have to fit in their lighting direction-wise. But what I did was just very simple, without even taking, the time to look for a sunset or something that would even fit in there better.
How do you manage your libraries? How do you keep track of knowing?
It's very simple. I just have them labeled blurred sunset. So when I get home at night, if I have any blurred sunsets from the family shoot, I just put them in that, and then I just physically go through every one of them. So all the ones I have now, I have D drives full of just sunset, but people have seen the sunsets before in my work, so I try to go out at night and get different ones. So I'm just using current sunsets. I have some storm clouds I haven't used yet. There's all kinds of different things.
Right. I see.
Okay. You learn as you go. I'm just kind of teaching you a base, but it really is practice. I have a lot to learn. I've only been doing photography for 2.5 years, and so every day, every night when I go out, I'm still learning. I've gotten proficient in Photoshop because I was so determined to do it, and I worked on the things I didn't want to work on, and but that's how I got there.
Okay. All right. Got some work to do then. All right.
Well, you do, but that's okay. But I want you to do some work, and I want to see you improve. And then I want you to go out and work on the things that I taught you to do, and bring me some problems, and we'll see if we can't fix it together. You know what I mean? Some struggles. Bring me some struggles, and I think that's where you're going to get the value out of the tutorial. I think you got some today just by seeing, how I use my brain, if anything, with it, just to do certain things. But if you bring me some problems, I think we can fix it.
Yes, let me do that. I think that'll be that'll be the way to go. Let me go out shooting stuff, and then
Yeah, because this is the things I use are simple, but it's also a lot to process. So I get that. I mean, what do you think of today? Did I do an okay job? I mean, aside from the computer flaking out. I mean, was I going too fast maybe on some part?
No, most importantly, you've got me sort of fired up to, I'm seeing, first of all, I'm seeing things which I
wanted to open up some possibilities.
Yes, exactly. That's the way to,
Okay.
that's it. So,
good.
You know, from the creative side, that's the most important thing, which, you know, something is possible, a different way, different from what I've ever seen it being done before. So,
sure.
So that, and I see that, like I said, you've created some stuff on your own. You're not, your approach is not. There's a couple of fairly inflexible approaches out there. This is the way this has to be done. This is the way you must go. But no, this is good. But I think that's my biggest take home from everything today.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's just important that you learn to look at the image and figure out your images, figure out what you don't like about them, and then figure out how to change them. You know, and not overdo it. So that's kind of it. That's kind of what I do. But that's it. So if you want to take your time, get back to me. Let me know when we can do the second half of this. It'll really bring me some problems. I think you're going to get a lot out of it.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm very appreciative. I enjoy doing these. And so if you need anything between now and then, just give me a quick call on FaceTime, okay? And then I can even just help you through it until. But try to set a target date for yourself pretty soon, because I kind of didn't expect these to book out like this. Set a target date for yourself soon. You can even move it if you need to, but let's just make sure you get in the book, like, you know, in September or something.
Yes.
It can be whenever you want it to be. I'm just saying, just try to set a target date or a goal for yourself so we can get you down.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because these things they can stretch almost indefinitely if one doesn't fix the target date. Okay. In my mind, yeah.
All right, well, good luck. Listen, good luck, and call me if you need anything, okay? You're not bothering me, or send me an email.
I will, definitely.
All right, well, thank you for this. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Very good.
Oh, hey, Deji, I'm gonna upload this to Dropbox in a zip file, and then I'll email it to you, okay, the recording.
Oh, well, that's really important. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to, the first thing I'm going to do is sort of watch some parts of it in kind of slow motion, so I can go over it a few times till I get it. I'll probably have to freeze. Yeah.
Okay, here's the bad part. It takes a long time to upload because it's a huge file, so it'll probably be late tonight or tomorrow morning before I'm able to send you the link. Is that okay?
No problem at all. This is going to take me several days to digest.
That's okay. All right, man. Have a good one, okay? Enjoy your holiday.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.